Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and today I'm hanging out with Jordan from Jordan. The PH is silent. I always called your channel Forgotten Realms Explained, but now you explain other things too. Yeah. So so were you always, a learned sage of Forgotten Realms, or was it kind of like a discovery as you went along? No sound. Oh no. Oh yeah. I see why they're saying no sound. Son of a monkey's uncle. That's because we're gonna have to make a quick switch. All right, there should be sound now.
Hello. Do I have sound now?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, excellent.
A professional streamer would have checked their sound mixer first and known there was a problem.
Professional streamers. So yeah, I was saying that what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was originally Forgotten Realms Explained because I was trying to do Forgotten Realms stuff, and then yeah, not just the PH is silent. I like that. And now the whole Jordan is silent. But no, and then as the channel grew, I realized I was doing more things with D&D or just RPGs in general. So I kind of like rebranded as just me, and we'll see. Maybe I'll rebrand again. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, I got into D&D later in my life than normal, or I shouldn't say than normal, but then a lot of people in our tabletop RPG circle who's been playing since they were like 8. But I started in my 30s, and I was so like captured by this whole world of Forgotten Realms, and I realized it was really big and that I didn't understand a lot of it. And so as I was like running games, I decided that I wanted to learn this. And I started looking for resources online, and I couldn't really find the YouTube videos that I wanted. So that's why I started the channel, because I'm like, well, if I'm looking for this, I think somebody else is also interested in this lore stuff. And the best way to learn is to teach. So I like would force myself to learn something and then make a video on it. And that's how I started. And yeah, and it's taken off from there. It's like, I think we're coming up on 4 years at the end of this year that the channel's been going. So
well, they say to teach something is to learn it twice. So
yes, 100%. And it's fun because I mean, a lot, especially my early videos, people were commenting like, you kind of got this wrong, or you didn't really understand this, or actually this was retconned here. And you kind of just learn how confusing the Forgotten Realms really is, because they had so many authors writing in Ed Greenwood's world that things would just get changed and revamped, and there's not hard canon like you kind of want, like you would with a Game of Thrones or something. So
I just remember seeing a panel online somewheres with a bunch of authors and Ed Greenwood, and they were kind of like ribbing him over selling the Forgotten Realms because he probably got like a couple $100 in a case of beer or something.
Oh yeah,
and now it's like this multi-million-dollar property.
Yeah, that's got to be weird too, because it's like your baby, and he still treats it like his baby. Like I think he has a contract with Wizards that if he ever writes something new for the realms, it's officially canon because he wrote it. And so he's adding on and configuring the world as he sees fit. But yeah, you want to know he sold it for like, I don't know, here's like $500. And you're like, okay. And now it's this, so many books and novels and everything. So
for me, because like I remember like, the early days where he would write a lot of like the Dragon magazine articles and reading about like his stuff from there, like from the character's point of view of the realms, and reading all the the early stuff, the first box set and everything. So it's got to be crazy too to create something like that and see it grow, to such epic proportions.
I don't know, in a way it's really cool to have it just like explode like that, but I also wonder, I don't know how creative controlling he is, in all honesty, but like when you have like another author come in and they're like, well, I'm not going to do anything with like this Ed Greenwood area on the Sword Coast, I'm going to take the North, or I'm going to take like the Drow and I'm going to hash them out, and then it's a completely, you know, Ed didn't like approve that, they just did it and moved on with it. So it's, I don't know, but I also think that's the beauty of it, is that so many people were collaboratively creating this, that it kind of became this really interesting thing. I don't know, I like it. Obviously. I have a whole channel about it.
So BK Dan wants to know, unrelated, why the beard since the pandemic? Is it a pandemic thing?
For me, it was 100% a pandemic thing. I always wanted to grow a beard, but I would get to a certain length and hate it. So I would, you know, shave it off. And then because I was working from home and the pandemic and we were all kind of isolating, I said, I'm going to like try and actually grow this. And I got through that itchy phase and started investing in like beard products, like beard oil. And now I kind of like it. And I don't know if I'll shave it. Like, it's been, I started in March and now it's, you know, September and I've got this beard and it's fun.
The most important thing, are you using the boar hair brush?
No, I need a boar hair brush.
Yeah, you do. I don't know why, but they make them and it's specifically for beards, and they're boar hair
like
brushes.
Just brush and comb it kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. I'll add that to my wish list of things.
The repertoire. Oh yeah. You need the whole beard kit. I feel like there's a bunch of people that have been doing that, and they're like, all right, so they want to see like what it looks like when they emerge from the pandemic. Also, I feel like a lot of them, when they started that, they're like, they didn't realize how long this was going to go on for.
Yep. And they're like, you kind of like, oh yeah, by July or something, we'll all be having fun and barbecues and talking about our silly beards. And now we're still here.
Oh my God. Riot is like, just nuzzle an actual live boar. I wouldn't mind that if I could find a friendly one, but they can be kind of mean, I hear. So
maybe you're boar familiar. If you're some kind of a ranger or wizard, you can help you out with your beard.
The boar is the chosen mount of the dwarf, so
that's true. Yeah.
If and you would probably know something. If you have any questions for me or Jordan, just put question in front of it so we know you're talking to us to make it easier, for sure. So you got started with Forgotten Realms, but you've also done some Eberron stuff as well. And actually, I did find myself on your channel going through some of the Eberron videos. I don't remember why, but I was like, hey, I need to know about Eberron, and then there I was.
Yeah. I think it was. It started with that DM's Guild supplement that Keith Baker and Wizards of the Coast were working on, and that's where we originally got the Warforged race. And they were selling I forget what it was called.
Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron.
Thank you. Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron. And so they had that. And that's when I was like, well, maybe I should like figure out this Eberron stuff, because I'm kind of the lore guy. So I started researching Eberron, which was a 3.5 campaign setting. And then later in 4th edition as well, and now 5th. But it's very complex and has a really cool history as well. And my first Gen Con, Keith Baker was having like an Eberron lore talk, and I went to his panel and got a lot of information from that. And so I wanted to start making Eberron videos, and I did. And again, it's one of those, like, you just kind of, the more you research, the more cool it gets, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of these campaign settings can kind of be intimidating, where you're just like, I don't know where to start. But it's almost like throw a dart at a board and just research that little circle of like a 2-mile radius of wherever your dart landed, and try to start your adventure there, because you can, like, it's that fleshed out in a lot of things. So, but Eberron's great, and Rising from the Last War came out, and that was a lot of fun. And then Keith Baker just released that Exploring Eberron that has a whole bunch of new content, or lore wise. So if you wanted to run like undersea adventures and stuff, he mapped out a lot of like undersea civilizations and Sahagwin stuff. And so, I want to run a Eberron game, but we were just talking about being parents before the stream started. But I've got my baby boy, and so I went from playing like 4 games a week, like I think I was running 2 and playing in 2, and now I run 1 and play in 1. And that's even too much sometimes, where I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably be a good dad and stay home sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, so Eberron is probably my favorite campaign setting, even though Keith Baker is our nemesis.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I told it, we're the nemesis he doesn't know about. You know, so Eberron came about from a competition, a contest.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we also had submitted several campaign settings, and he beat us. But we're like, yeah, we see why, because your stuff is really good.
Yeah,
and ours not so much. And that's also going back a long ways. We were a little salty, like when they initially won, because like it was like a professional game designer had won.
Right, and you were like, it's supposed to be anybody.
Yeah.
We're all cool. We all have really great homebrew worlds. Yeah. That was an interesting idea, though. And I always wondered if Wizards of the Coast would do that again, where I think you submitted like a sentence, and if they liked your campaign setting based on the sentence, you got a paragraph, and then you got like one page, and so you got to like continually impress them with more stuff. But you have to have that hook, that sentence hook.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it was. We had it like me, Ted, my brother, and some other people. Like we had submitted our homebrew world, and then I had submitted another world on my own that actually had some of like the elements that Eberron had in it, but also there was very like specific things where clearly I see why like that stuff would never go into a more modern D&D campaign setting, because really, like, if you can't fit everything in there, Wizards of the Coast isn't going to want it, for that reason. That's why we'll probably never see another like Dark Sun or because
like where do tieflings fit into Dark Sun, and where do
right. I mean, even magic is different, and clerics aren't the same, and so everything is kind of different. But yeah, that was like one of the few campaign settings I ever ran as a DM. Generally we've always done homebrew stuff. So in 3rd edition, I had run like an Eberron campaign for a while, and then early 5e, I had run a series of one shots that were all all in Eberron. Just because like if I'm gonna play generic fantasy, I would just rather do homebrew than like Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms.
Yeah,
because it just feels like someone else's version of Tolkien.
Yeah, in a way. I think the Realms is really good as like a jumping off standpoint, and I think I can't actually pinpoint, and this is coming from a guy that runs like a Forgotten Realms channel, but like I can't pinpoint there's very few people I think out there that run like canon by the rules Forgotten Realms game, unless you're playing some of the 5e modules that they've published, like Tomb of Annihilation and stuff. But like I say, I ran a Forgotten Realms game for 3 years, but it was really just, what did I want to do with it? And so I needed a place for them to go. And I'm like, oh, well, my Waterdeep is going to be like this, or my Neverwinter is going to be like this. And currently I'm running a 2nd edition module called Rod of 7 Parts that can take place anywhere. And I've updated it for 5th edition, and we put it in the Forgotten Realms, but I'm not doing anything like, we're using the gods, I guess, from the Forgotten Realms kind of a thing. But I don't know. It's you have to make it your own. And so I just got a question a couple days ago that was like, how do you deal with somebody at the table who knows more Forgotten Realms lore than you? And I was like, man, that's got to be tough. Like I haven't personally experienced that, but I see the frustrations with people playing in the realms when you're like, if I was just doing a homebrew, it's like, well, I just said this and now it's canon. So there you go.
Well, I feel like whenever you're running in someone else's campaign setting like that, you just got to be like, hey, this is like Marvel or DC where there's a bunch of worlds, and you're playing in my version of Forgotten Realms.
Faerun 616 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to be like that. And also, like, I will add the caveat that, like, play in whatever setting you want. I understand, like, having a setting where all this information is already there does make it easier. But like you said, you also have the other thing of when the players know more about it than you do. And I also loved reading the novels set in the Forgotten Realms.
Oh yeah, those are a lot of fun. Yeah, we because yeah, and I also didn't grow up with those novels, but starting research into the Forgotten Realms, I discovered R.A. Salvatore and Ed Greenwood's novels and read a bunch of those. And so there was a long period where I was just reading book after book after book, like consuming all of this because it was just fun. And I was like, oh, this is really cool.
The Time of Troubles was a really good series. I think it was Threat from the Sea is probably one of my favorites.
I haven't read that one.
Mel Autumn. He's actually like kind of like a higher caliber author than was generally writing for TSR. You know, I don't know if that's where he cut his teeth and kind of moved on, but like he writes for like TV series like NCIS and stuff like that now. And then
cool.
You know, but that was like a great series. And then they went back and did some Gamma World novels.
Oh, fun.
and he wrote one of those, and I was like, he must have just wanted to write in Gamma World when I saw his name on it, and which was also
like a passion project to come back. Because it's like you're doing all this other stuff. Why? Yeah,
like I can't. Fun. I was just like, I can't imagine they're paying what you're getting paid elsewhere. And that was, I think that was Sooner Dead was the Gamma World novel that was fantastic. If you're into that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian wants to know any favorite bits from the new book. What's your favorite Eberron Nation?
Favorite bits from the new book. I haven't had the most time to read through it like cover to cover entirely. I like quote unquote reviewed it on my channel, but it was more of like a flip through and here were the parts that I really enjoyed. Yeah. I think the history of Seer is probably the best part because previously we didn't get any information on what was the Mournland like before the big catastrophe that destroyed it. And this way you could be somebody that was from that nation. So now you could accurately play someone from that nation, but you were off fighting in another nation when the day of mourning happened. And so your entire civilization is destroyed. And now you are a nationless person. And so to have those resources is really cool, I think. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And then if a lot of Eberron expeditions, I feel you end up going to the Mournland at some point for some reason, because it's just this unexplored cool thing. And you could be like, as a player, that would be a lot of fun to go through there and be like, oh yeah, this is where I used to live, or this monument was here. And you could be the topographer, I guess, and know where things are. So
yeah, for me it's Darkhan. I love the Goblin Nation.
Yeah.
So there's a really good series that kind of highlighted a bunch of stuff from there in Eberron that I really enjoyed, and it's like they totally put a different spin on it, and where goblins are just like these scrubby monsters that everyone just picks on and kills. Mm-hmm. Like they made goblins like ninjas, like the goblin. Some of the goblin clans. It was pretty crazy, and you know how they depict the hobgoblins.
So, the great like goblin nations of old, and that they lost wars and stuff, and that's where they're at now. But yeah, they're definitely like in fantasy, traditional fantasy, I guess, and Forgotten Realms and things like that. They're just fodder for the most part. There's something for the adventurers to be like, oh, there's like dumb goblins living in a cave. Let's go take care of them. And that's the beauty of Eberron, is that they made them this intelligent, like really cool race that has a history, and now they've lost that for whatever reason, and it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, they did, but at the same time, like, they're in the process of kind of like reclaiming it.
Yeah,
which 100%. Which is like kind of cool to see that journey. And also Droam is really cool as well, where you have the Monster Nation, and kind of like focusing in Melian's Gate is kind of fascinated me as well, and Sharn.
Yeah. What's the I forget, I'm spacing it, but like the demon knoll tribes of the north.
Oh, like, I am not as familiar with them.
But anyway, like there's lots of cool little places like that, and I think that's really fun. And we got knoll stats, so you could play a knoll with that Exploring Eberron book, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't even see them yet. We've been kind of like picking through the book and like doing like micro content on it. So I'm like reading it as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think the last pitch I said to one of my groups for a game was like, four different scenarios, and one of them was an Eberron game.
Cool.
So we had a question. Well, not more a question, more of a statement. Or Seeker wants to know if you're going to do some Dark Sun, Spelljammer, Ravenloft, and Planescape lore.
I've done a little bit of Planescape. Ravenloft is interesting because I feel like it's such a fun little module world, but it's not, I don't know, it's not as like, there's not a ton of information to mine there because it was this little thing, except they expanded it out to these domains of dread in 4th edition and things. But if there's a wish for it, I would do more Ravenloft. Definitely Planescape. Dark Sun is maybe. And spoilers, I guess I'll announce it on your show right here, so you guys are privy to it. I am actively working on like a bunch of Spelljammer videos.
Oh, nice.
Wizards of the Coast keeps posting Spelljammer not confirmed as like a hashtag whenever they release new stuff. And I'm like, people want some Spelljammer. So I decided to start writing. So I've got, I think 3 scripts written, and I'm going to start recording that. And those should be out in like a couple weeks or a month or so.
I will say for Ravenloft, there was a ton of novels, and there was
a ton of novels,
a bunch of Van Richten's Guide back in AD&D. They also released a couple box sets. So there's actually a lot more to Ravenloft.
Okay. I need to check it out, man. I did the Curse of Strahd, like a deep dive on that, but I haven't read any Ravenloft novels. I should.
So. Oh yeah, I would highly recommend Knight of the Black Rose and Lord Soth.
All right. So I'm gonna take notes.
You get a little of a crossover from Dragonlance into it, but yeah, the Domains of Dread were really good. They also did get like some really good writers in there. I think Christy Golden was an author that did. I think she wrote on Strahd, which was a really good novel, and a couple of the other ones. And again, that was like one of those standout authors. There's like so many authors in, TSR back in those days, and they would just churn out novel after novel. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't consider it like high literature exactly. It's like metal jump,
but it's fun.
But it was fun. Yeah, that's exactly
there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I feel like I should be reading this like smart person book, and I was like, there's no smart. I mean, I guess there are like reading levels. You've got 4th grade and you've got high school or something, but like I read through a lot of those R.A. Salvatore books and Ed Greenwood books, and I'm like, at the end of the day, they're just fun. And if it's a lighter reading load, I can just get through that many more books, and it's fun. Yeah. And so and inspirational. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was reading some of those, and you're like, oh, like I want to have this fight in my game. Like, that seems so cool. A fun mechanic. So
yeah, I used to read them like when I was a teenager, and I'd go through like 2 books a week or 2-3 books a week.
Yeah,
and just what other people had friends and did other things, I would just read.
Other people had friends, and I was just busy reading.
So Dan wants to know if you would consider doing an AMA and Ask Me Anything D&D related.
Yeah. I have nothing against that. So I'm assuming something on my channel. I'll just like do a live stream and you guys can ask me questions. Yeah. I would be down for that. It's all about scheduling though, and so I don't know. I have to wait till the boy's asleep and figure it out, but that'd be fun.
Yeah, it does make it tough. I think DM's there, Luke does them, and he does them for like 4 hours at a time. There's a couple people where they do these epic long live streams that is just one person. I'm like, I would have nothing to talk about.
You hope that they ask interesting questions, because you're like, I don't know.
I'm so impressed.
I was just talking to Nerd Immersion, Ted from Nerd Immersion last night, and he did an impromptu Ask Me Anything on his YouTube channel. And he's like, yeah, I was going to do it for like an hour, and then it lasted 3 hours because people were just asking interesting questions. And I'm like, you're pulling a Matt Colville now, where like Matt just does a live stream and he'll talk for 4 hours. And then you're like, where did that time go? Holy cow.
So with everything going on, are you gaming? Well, you're probably gaming less with a new kid. I usually my generic apocalypse question is, are you gaming more or less or the same?
Yeah, definitely gaming less, but and doing more online stuff, I guess. So before we were just actively gaming at the house, and then I have a friend that I go to his house to play. But a lot of those games were on hiatus after my son was born, and then shortly after we kind of figured out schedules with him, the pandemic hit. And so then it was like, well, we don't really feel comfortable having people over anymore, and so a lot of those games just kind of are in limbo.
Yeah.
Not in the plane of limbo, but rather they're just on hiatus. So actively right now, I'm running a game on Wednesdays online. We're streaming it, and then that's the Rod of Seven Parts. And that's a lot of fun, and we'll probably wrap up around October, November, I think. And then I don't know what we're going to do after that. If we want to keep playing, or somebody else is going to DM, or same characters, we'll have to figure it out. And then I'm playing in a Wild Mount game on Saturdays with some friends locally, and that's a lot of fun. So
cool. So you've moved online with your local group?
Yeah, we're doing just like, and I think we're we don't use Zoom. We're just doing like Google Hangouts and Roll20 and just playing around, and it's a lot of fun. So
wasn't Google Hangouts supposed to be going away like 4 years
ago?
I
think it is. Like everything else, like Google Plus and all their other stuff, they're just like, yeah, we're gonna slowly get rid of this, and then that last person who uses it is like, oh no. But
yeah, I always see it's weird when someone wants to do like a Google Hangout. I'm like we moved away from it when they kept saying this is going away. Yeah, and they and they also changed a bunch of the stuff, but it just never seems to actually go away.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked Google Plus. I was a big proponent of it. I was trying to get all of my friends and family to shift over from Facebook to that, but nobody would do it, and that was ultimately the downfall of Google Plus. Is like nobody wants to shift over, and so.
Yeah. I found that. I think they used it more like in European countries than here in the US.
Yeah.
But
it had a huge tabletop group, and that's where I discovered some of the other tabletop games that I like Dungeon Crawl Classics and stuff, because there was like big communities that were in Google Plus that were playing OSR stuff.
Yeah.
And it was fun to mess around or to play with that, and just like, oh my gosh, there's a huge community here that I didn't even know about, because you just don't find those groups as easily on Facebook, I feel. So but they were cool people.
Do you do any other games on your channel?
No, strictly I've been doing Dungeons and Dragons because that's kind of the brand of the channel.
Yeah.
But personally, I play a lot of I love Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I run that. And if you on my Patreon, I have a couple of Dungeon Crawl Classics episodes that we recorded at the table and just released as a podcast. And then I play Kids on Bikes, and it's become a Halloween tradition that we have a Halloween Kids on Bikes game. And so I've also recorded those, and they're up on the internet floating around there somewhere. So I like other RPGs. And then we played an old school Deadlands game of like zombies in the Wild West.
Yeah.
That a friend of mine was just really into Deadlands, and so he ran that, and we had a lot of fun with that. But there's not the same amount of lore for those other games. And since I'm a lore channel, it doesn't really make sense for me to be like, let's break this down. But I have talked about DCC every once in a while. I made back when everybody was making Counterspell videos, I made a Counterspell video.
Yeah.
And I said that I enjoyed how Dungeon Crawl Classics handles Counterspell, which surprisingly is like 3rd edition, I guess, 3.5. And so I was like, I haven't played 3.5, but I would like their Counterspell rules then. So
yeah, I think, what was it like? It's your level. You add your level to it or something to the roll.
From my understanding, you can counterspell a spell if you know the same spell. So if they cast Magic Missile, you could counter it with Magic Missile. And I liked that idea of not having a single spell that counters everything. I like the idea of like, I have to like, okay, we're fighting a Lich. He's probably going to have Cloud Kill. I want to prepare Cloud Kill just so I can counter his Cloud Kill, and like have a strategy going forward rather than just I counter. And I'm like, okay.
I think it was a spell too, but maybe not. I don't know.
It might have been. So
I had a lot of additions rattling around in my head. They all kind of like blurred together. What about some Numenera, man?
Oh yeah, I do love Numenera.
You could lure
I played that with with Ted with your buddy Ted. That was a lot of fun. With Mike from Indoor Gaming ran that game with us online.
Unmade.
And that was a lot of fun. And that was, I've never played Numenera. That was actually stepping into doing other systems and other worlds. And I really like the world of Numenera, and that system's a lot of fun. I have Numenera 1 and 2 over on that shelf, but I have not actively played them. Or I haven't ran a game yet, but it's on my list of things I want to play. So
yeah, I feel like Monte Cook games, they actually do a lot with lore and stuff like that. I mean, there's other ones too. I guess there's Warhammer, but at the end of the day, like as a fellow creator, I know it's like you're gonna pour all this time and energy into doing this other system, and no one's gonna care.
Yeah, in a way.
So, there's five people that are gonna be really loud about it, but
yeah. I got really interested and obsessed with Monte Cook's Invisible Sun RPG, and bought the box and really enjoyed it. And I read up a bunch on it, and because it's all lore, really. Like, it's a very simple system, but like has so much to the world. And I thought about making some videos on Invisible Sun, but I'm like, I don't know. The joy of Invisible Sun is playing it and experiencing the lore. It's not something that you really want to like watch and digest. So I decided against that, but still a really cool game. Invisible Sun. Check it out.
We're about to start a Cypher System game.
Oh, cool.
Which is weird because they took Numenera, reverse engineered, and made a generic game from it. But yeah, so we're about to start playing with that. Dan wants to know, I know you started playing D&D in your 30s. What edition?
I started with a friend introduced me to D&D, and he's like, let's play D&D. And he grew up with 2nd edition AD&D. So we played a game of that, but the game fell apart after 4 sessions or so. So we didn't really do anything. I just kind of I basically got the mechanics down of like what we're doing, and then it fizzled out. But I was hooked after that. And I didn't understand that different editions might be like, I thought it was a numerical thing. So I'm just like, well, we have a 4th edition. Why aren't we playing the latest and greatest 4th edition game? Like, I don't understand. So I bought a bunch of 4th edition stuff, and we played a year-long 4th edition game. And then 5th edition came out, and we switched over because we're like, let's try out this new stuff. Now in hindsight, I totally understand, like, well, 4th edition was very different, and there's a reason people stuck with 3.5 or with 2nd edition. Because you like a certain feel of a game, you know.
They're all their own game essentially,
yeah. But no, I ran a 4th edition game for a year, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's good times.
Yeah,
that's what I started with, I guess, technically 2nd edition, but 4th edition is what I was familiar with. So
we played 4E for like a year and a half, I think, and then we drifted away from D&D and started playing more other games.
If you're tactical, it can be a lot of fun. And I'm still surprised Wizards of the Coast hasn't taken that rule set and just made an online version of it, where like a Roll20 version, because you would get all these bonuses of being behind the enemy or flanking them or doing this. And if you had a system, if you had a computer that would add all of those up for you, and then I don't know, like I would love to play that game where it's like, okay, I've got 4 players and a dungeon master, and we're all strategically trying to like play a game of chess and out positioning matters and things like that. But for theater of the mind, it's not a good system at all, because you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the complaint is that people who wanted to role play didn't want a video game, you know.
When they built the game, I think that was their intention. Like they demoed some stuff, and I think they got burned by a company. You know, maybe they just didn't choose wisely. They didn't get the right people on the project. You know, so like that part of it never came to fruition. Like I liked the digital tools that they had with 4th edition.
Yeah.
Like that was like one of my favorite things. It was like so easy to make characters and you know build encounters and things like that. And when D&D Beyond dropped, like that's what it reminded me of. So I was super excited for D&D Beyond while everyone else was kind of bitching about paying for the books again, because I liked that tool set from 4th edition.
Yeah, I was on the same boat. I was against D&D Beyond because I'm like, I don't want to buy these books again. I don't want to do that. But when I finally bit the bullet and got it, now I don't think I could play any other way. Like
Well,
I sit down with my laptop at the table and having all of my notes there. And when I'm playing games online, the encounter builder, I use that a lot. And then I have like balanced encounters and they're all saved. And it's a really good resource.
So the weird thing though is like a lot of people that were complaining had already bought the books like 2 or 3 times because, and I'm not saying like I agree I wouldn't want to buy them again, but you're complaining about the thing you already did, right? You didn't complain when Fantasy Grounds made you buy them again. You didn't complain when Roll20 made
or
you
any of these other things.
Yeah, it's just like, well, it's just another distributor, you know.
Yeah.
So, and they're separate companies, but you know, again, like we were lucky enough that they ended up sponsoring us, but you know, just before that, when they did the first Legendary bundle, we were looking at buying that. And I was like, well, let me reach out to them first and start talking to them. And they're like, yeah. And they made us one of their insiders, which was really cool. But like I said, we were going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like when it comes to like the D&D stuff, I spend way too much money and always had. It's always been like my weakness. It's like, got to get the new thing.
Yeah.
Like even all the adventures, we buy them, yet we never even use them. So.
Yeah. No, I've started collecting the adventures too because they're fun and the artwork's cool and it's like, hey, it's a new adventure and I'm excited for like Icewind Dale, but like, am I gonna run Icewind Dale? I don't know, but I've got it pre-ordered, so I'm gonna do something with it, I hope. But yeah.
So well, you know, we like I said, we homebrew everything, so we end up taking that stuff and cherry picking it for items, you know, player content, monsters, whatever. So you mentioned Spelljammer. So are you excited for a Spelljammer campaign setting?
Well, I don't think Wizards of the Coast is gonna like make a 5th edition one. Maybe they will. But I've been researching Spelljammer for the last month or so, and it's really fun. And the concept of it is just silly because I think they went into, you know, they had Forgotten Realms and they had, I think Dark Sun was out. And they were like, how do we one up this kind of a thing?
Yeah.
And he went into a boardroom and he's just like D&D in space. And everyone's like, make it happen. And so that was the pitch and he didn't know how to make it happen. So he started writing and they were figuring out the mechanics of it. And what is it like gravity works differently. Like they had to do all of this stuff to make magic work in space and things like that. But I love it. I don't know. It's really fun. And it expanded the lore on illithids a whole bunch and beholders, like where they come from and how they exist. And the crystal shells. Anyway, it's a cool setting. And the joy of these older settings is you really can just buy some of the older PDFs. And although you don't have mechanics for that, you can upgrade it or update it to 5th edition really easily, I feel. And specifically for Spelljammer, a lot of people are like, well, I want official content because I want like ship rules. And I've told them, go buy Ghosts of Saltmarsh and use those ship rules, but just extrapolate it that you're flying through space.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you have the tools to do it. I don't think we need to wait for Wizards of the Coast to release a 5th edition version of Spelljammer. Like you should just go play a Spelljammer game right now. So
you can probably buy all the old stuff on.
Drive Through RPG.
Drive Through RPG or the DM's Guild or whatever, so you can access all the lore. And you know, the AD&D stuff really translates over to 5e pretty easy in comparison, you know, to 4th or 3rd.
Yeah, definitely 4th. I'm not sure about 3rd, but like for 2nd edition, you just have to like reverse the THAC0 so it's ascending and you're probably solid. So so with actually a lot of the numbers, because I think what did we do? We revisited some of the old spells and you know, looking at those, it translated pretty easy. The 3rd is funny because in 3rd you can do it, and I've done it where I didn't even change the monsters really at all, but just know that they were going to be tougher. You know, from a 3rd edition monster is tougher than a 5th edition monster because they're going to have a higher armor class. Right.
You know, and like you might have to adjust their attack bonus down a little bit and their damage bonus down a little bit, because in 3rd it was like you were getting bonuses like for levels and stuff like that that don't really correspond well to 5th.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many monsters, and if you buy the Kobold Press stuff, I don't like when I'm doing Rod of Seven Parts, we have spider fiends that are a second edition monster that are these like wolf spider hybrid things that are running around causing problems. And I could have tried to translate their stat blocks into fifth edition, but I kind of just found a fifth edition monster that fits it, and I use that instead.
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know, for me, that's the way to go. Is I'm like, oh, like you're fighting an imp. Is there an imp in fifth edition? Oh, cool. Or like, oh, you're fighting this. And then if there's not something in like Wizards of the Coast 5e, I start looking at Kobold Press stuff because I like the creature codex, and I'll flip through that and find, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. And it does pretty much that. And it's been play tested. So that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, between the Wizards of the Coast books, Toma Beast, Creature Codex, you've got more monsters than you could probably ever use.
Yeah, exactly.
We did some conversions for Spelljammer over on the website. Nate did back in the day.
Cool.
He did a whole like Psyotics write-up that's like spans like 13 15 articles or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So like I guess early in 5e over on the website we had done a lot of conversions like that, but in my own games, like you said, I would just tweak what's there or grab a monster that's similar or reskin something. There's probably something that's close to what you need.
Yeah, it's weird that so many people are talking about Spelljammer, because I always felt like that Planescape was more popular, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as I want to go from the prime material plane to somewhere else, or I want to like jump, they're both transitive campaign settings that you're usually leaving, Faerun, or you're leaving your homebrew world and going somewhere else. And Planescape just seemed more popular, but I don't know if it's just the idea of D&D in space and people are like freaking out. But with fifth edition, I feel, I don't know, I was expecting Tasha's book to be a manual of the planes, and that they were going to use that as a stepping stone into Planescape. But now I don't think that anymore, because it looks like not that.
If I have any complaints with 5e is they have taken very few risks. Like,
that's true.
all their things have been kind of very, very safe, and essentially, with Tasha's, we're going to get a bunch of stuff we already seen.
Yeah, they're not pushing any boundaries, I guess. They're just kind of like, this is going to sell. People are going to be excited about it. There you go. Kind of thing.
I mean, it'll be a good book. It's going to add a lot of cool stuff, and with that book, like, I'm excited for the things that I haven't seen in a UA. So
yeah, I more so. I mean, the classes and stuff will be fun, like the subclasses.
Yeah.
And having like a non-Eberron themed artificer will be cool. But I'm always excited for like with Xanathars, I really liked all the downtime stuff. I thought that was kind of a fun mechanic. And we used that in a Ghosts of Saltmarsh game that I ran, where they would come back to town and I'm like, all right, you have 10 days to do stuff. And they would all like roll dice to see if they could find rumors and things. And we had more fun with those downtime sessions than we did with a lot of like the combat. And I liked it.
I still feel like we don't have an Eberron flavored artificer, but I mean, having come from third edition and played like the original class, and it was very, very different. Like the crafting rules were a lot more fleshed out, for better or worse, in third edition. And the Eberron artificers really did make magic items. Where, which is a little different than they do. Like, I think this version is better than the original one they came out with. Like, it kept getting a little bit better.
Yeah, they always tweak it, and just like the races too. They tweak the Warforge, and a lot of people were upset that the Warforge armor class changed or something. But and I was playing a Warforged in a homebrew campaign, and we updated it, and I was like, I kind of like this more, because like before I couldn't wear armor, and now I actually could apply magical armor and stuff. And so they're making it better. It's just, I think a lot of people just don't like change, and so it's like, but you could still play the old one. It's still there. I don't know.
That's fair. And then like the new book adds some race specific feats. That definitely give you more of that feel for the Warforged from previous editions as well. And it's just like, some races are just hard to balance in 5e.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they're doing the best they can, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general, I think, is if you don't like something, you can just change it. And so there you go. Like, we gave Tritons dark vision way before Wizards of the Coast made that retcon.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, just give them dark vision. Who cares, you know?
Yeah, I remember like us reading about the Triton and Volo's guide, and we're like, they live in a dark place. This doesn't make any sense. But then again, like dark vision is kind of its like own sore spot, because it's like almost everybody has it, except for everybody has dark vision except for the people you would expect to have it. It seems like
Yeah.
It's
It's
like these guys that live at the bottom of the ocean in no dark vision. These things that are like dragons, no dark vision.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay. I get it from a balance standpoint though, like changelings. It's like, I don't want changelings to have dark vision because they can do all these other things.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing that makes them more powerful. But then you think about like, well, if we're actually thinking about where they live and what they do, like they probably have it. And I feel like that was the way with the Triton. They were just like, we're already giving them a swim speed and all this other stuff.
Magic.
Magic, that they don't need that. But at the same time, it's like,
for the love
makes sense.
For the love of God, they can talk to fish.
Yeah. Boy, my player loved that ability. He would go around. He's like, I want to talk to but it doesn't say that they can understand. It just says that the fish can understand them. So he was making all kinds of charisma saving or rolls, persuasion checks to have fish go do what he wants.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a tuna. What do you think it's going to do? Like, I don't know. It swims away and it comes back with a gold necklace. No.
Every time. It just makes me think of the old Justice League with Aquaman. He's like, my telepathic ability to talk to fish aren't helping me here.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely some good times. So do you prefer running games or being a player?
I prefer running games. This is a good question because I've thought about this a lot, and I finally came to that conclusion where whenever I'm playing, I like playing. I like having a character, and I like doing all the things that players do and leveling up. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of get bored during sessions. And when I'm the dungeon master, I'm not bored because I'm always actively listening to my players, or I'm engaging with them in some sense. And so you have more to do. And I think I've been running games predominantly for so long that that's just what I prefer. And I like adding flavor text and other little things and kind of describing how stuff is. And so, yeah, I mean, playing is fun, but if it's a 5th edition game of D&D, I'd prefer to run it because I'm so familiar. And at this point, if I was playing another game, I would prefer to be a player. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, I want to run a Pathfinder 2 game, I'd be like, awesome. I don't know that system as well. I would love to play in it so I could understand it better. Or the one I've been wanting to play is Call of Cthulhu, where I'm like, I don't know the lore of Cthulhu very well. And I would love to have somebody who is like Seth Skorkowski, like he runs that YouTube channel where he does all the old school stuff. I want him to run me a Call of Cthulhu game because he's so passionate about it, and it would be fun to do that. But yeah, so short answer, I like running games, but
that would be a lot of fun. That is on my list of games to play, Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I just have mixed feelings over that one because I'm familiar with the lore. I have read a bunch of the stories, and it's just like I just feel like that game should always end horrifically.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, and I think I like that so much. But I want to play in that. I don't know. And I've had conversations with friends where I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that reads up on all of this and actually runs a game for my friends. I want to find that real passionate Call of Cthulhu guy that could run the game. That's like, oh, all of a sudden, this is, I get it now, I guess. Like you get why so-and-so is passionate about it because they're so invested in the lore in the game. And it's same thing like Eberron. Like if you're not that interested in Eberron, but somebody who loves it runs a game for you, you get a new appreciation for that campaign setting, you know?
Yeah, that passion will seep through.
Mm-hmm.
Guy Schlanders from How to Be a Great GM would be another top-notch choice
cool.
for a Call of Cthulhu game as well.
Dave, set it up. We'll do a YouTube Call of Cthulhu one shot, and you find the DM, and I'll be one of your players. That'll be great.
We can let Seth and Guy wrestle it out over the GM chair.
They'll probably both want to play is the thing. They're just like, oh yeah, I know you can run it. No, you can run it. Like, I want to play in this.
I don't remember. I think he said he prefers GMing.
Probably, maybe.
Oh,
he GMs a lot.
He does.
I met him at Gen Con last year or 2 years ago. He's a really fun guy. Like, I like him a lot.
yeah. I also met him there as well. And it's funny too, because like whenever we meet people, like Ted never knows who anyone is, and I have to decide whether I want to sandbag Ted or whether I want to be like, hey, this is so and so. They do this cool thing. Depends on my mood at the time.
Yeah, you need to just you should incorrectly point out, you know, go up to Cody and just be like, yeah, that's Jordan with a PH. Go say hi, Ted. Like, oh, all right.
But it's just kind of funny. I don't know. Me and Ted have been friends for a long time, and we're kind of family. So I've been messing with Ted for a long time. It wasn't enough just to marry his sister, or maybe I'm getting him back. I don't know.
That's fun. Very fun.
Yeah. So after your 7 parts wraps up, do you know where you're going to go next?
No. We've been talking about continuing the game to get to level 20 because we haven't. I mean, how many D&D games actually get to 20? And I even games I've run, I haven't gotten to 20 because usually we get to like 12. And then, hey, let's start a new game. Oh, okay, cool, new characters. So there was an idea of us playing and going further with Rod of 7 Parts characters and just do homebrew afterwards. And I don't know, maybe if I research all the Spelljammer stuff or Planescape stuff, we'll turn it into some kind of like Planescape game where we run around and do interesting stuff like that. That could be a lot of fun. Or around that time, Tasha's is going to come out, and Ted from Nerd Immersion was saying that he wouldn't mind running a new game with those new rules. And so I was like, well, I volunteer to play. That'd be a lot of fun. So,
yeah. So did those players start at level 1?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. We started at level 5 because I don't like level 1 anymore. If you have experienced D&D players, starting at level 1 is just like frustrating. So I think they started at 5.
I like 3. I kind of like
3's
3.
Good, yeah.
But then if you start at 3, the like players are like pushing for one more level so they can get the stat adjustment or the feat.
Yeah.
And then like that 3 to 5 is kind of like a sweet spot to stop or start.
But 1 to 2 feels like if you've never played D&D before, here's how you play D&D, and you don't have a lot of tools in your bag at the moment. So it's a simplified version. And so with that, I'm like, they're all experienced players. Let's just start at level 5. And they're level 10 now or 9. I should probably level my players up and let them know. So
maybe
I said, I want you to get to like 14 or 15 by the end of the campaign. Yeah. And now that I think about it, we're kind of coming up towards the end. So I should probably level them up at some point. So
Alex wants to know, what section of the Forgotten Realms lore was the most fun to learn about, and what piece of lore were you most surprised you ended up liking?
Those are difficult questions. So I really like Al-Qadim, which is the Zakara, the kind of the Arabian desert region of the Forgotten Realms. So not Faerun, it's like its separate continent of Zakara. And I like that lore because they took that area, and because it's so isolated from Faerun, it developed its own unique spells and its own unique magic system. And I like genies. And so there's a whole subclass around, there was a wizard subclass called the Sha'ir that revolves around genies. And you make it's kind of like the Warlock pact that's coming out, but like you make a pact with this genie. And then when you start your day or when you're in combat, you have a conversation with them and you're like, I need you to go to the elemental plane of fire, bring me back a fireball, and then I'll be able to cast it. And so it was this like talking back and forth with negotiation for magic that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
So definitely Al-Qadim, and I ran a little like jaunt through Al-Qadim with one of my players or with one of my groups. That was a lot of fun. But like the most surprising thing about D&D lore, I don't know. There's so much there, and I get confused. Maybe that blade singers are basically Jedi. I don't know. That was something that I discovered researching blade singers, where I'm like their code and ancient protectors and all this other stuff. I thought that was kind of funny. Chult was this interesting thing. Like when Tomb of Annihilation came out, I was researching Chult a whole bunch, and just the idea that there is a Ubtao or Ubtao, I think it's Ubtao, is a primordial god that sided with the gods during the primordial god fighting. And because he sided with the gods, they gave him the island or the peninsula of Chult, and he turned that into how he wanted it to be. And that's why there's dinosaurs and stuff running around. And I always thought that was kind of interesting, where it's like, I'm going to just make this little area my vision of the world, whereas the rest of everything is castles and very medieval fantasy. But Chult is so different because of that primordial creating this area. So yeah, we'll go with that.
That makes me think of the Spider-Man meme with Sauron, but it's not really a meme. It's like from the comic book, where Spider-Man's like, with all this technology and knowledge, you could cure cancer. And he's like, I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yes. Yes. That old Marvel comic, because it's the pterodactyl guy. I forget his name.
Yeah. Sauron.
But yeah, Sauron. Yeah. That's good. And that's exactly it. He's like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, that sounds like Uptown. Like, no.
Forget that. That's great. I remember really enjoying the Mystica trilogy when I had read that as a teenager. Yeah. My understanding is very problematic now, but I read it like, I don't know, probably like 30 years ago whenever it first came out. And I remember enjoying it as a teenager. So
yeah, there's been a big push. A lot of people want me to cover that, but it's kind of a hot subject. And so I haven't covered it because I don't know. I just don't want to, I just don't want to cover hot subjects like that.
Yeah.
Same with Karator and the Oriental Adventure that they made. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's cool that there's this whole other continent, that you could potentially go and sail to in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah. So. Obviously Oriental Adventures was problematic, is problematic now, but it was like one of my favorite covers from back in the day. It's just like that epic scene of the samurai riding a Fu lion or Fu dog, squaring off against the ninja was just like super cool. So Rocco wants to know, are there any races or classes you don't allow in your games?
Yeah. It depends on the game and the kind of like feel that I'm going for, but for Rod of Seven Parts, I specifically said, hey, I want this to be a Forgotten Realms game, so I don't want you to play any Eberron races, only this. And then for another game that I was playing, we decided to swap the Wildmount / Eberron orc to get rid of the one that was in Volos that has like the minus intelligence.
Yeah.
So that they could be more of like a druid kind of they didn't want that -2 intelligence.
Who does?
Same thing with kobolds and stuff.
It was just kind of dumb, right? When Volos died, and we kind of like talked about it a little bit back then. It's like, I mean, I know other people have a lot of different issues with it. We just didn't like it from a design stance. It's like, why are you going to design everything this one way, but then these two races, you decide to change that?
Yeah, and if I was playing a monster campaign, maybe I would use that, but I don't even think I would at that point, because you're supposed to be heroes in D&D 5e. Like you're not playing just peasants and stuff. From a design standpoint, it was kind of weird. So I've swapped out that orc in like my home game and stuff. And I think the only one that I really have a big taboo on is Changeling, because they just have a permanent hat of disguise that is not, I'm not able to dispel it. I'm not able to do stuff. And changelings are cool and they work really well in the Eberron setting. But when you take them outside of the setting, they don't work as well. So
Yeah. Well, so I guess one of the things is, and I always see this kind of used wrong, is like they can't change their gear and their clothing.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
just them.
Yeah.
So so it's
And I don't
whatever.
think they can grow a tail or anything like that. So you couldn't be like a, I don't know. You can't change into an animal. It's just like physical features to look like a humanoid. So
Yeah, like I don't know about the wings and tails and things like that. I don't think so either. It's like you still have to be your general shape.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't care. We're very much kitchen sink. So
yeah. But if the player is really excited for it, like if we sit down at a table and he's just like, I want to be a robot, I want to play a Warforged so bad, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say, let's do that. Here's how we can make it work. And I'll be like, you were created by a wizard. There was an explosion. You're literally the only Warforged. And then we can go forward with that, rather than, like I'll make it work. And I've had players that we did Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and one of them was a changeling and one of them was a Triton, and they just, you make it work if they're really excited about that. But a lot of times I'll say, what aspect of this changeling do you like? And they'll say, oh, well, I want to be able to do this. And I'm like, well, you could be a human and I could give you a hat of disguise. And they're like, oh, well, that's all I wanted. And so if you talk to your players and find out why they want to be this race, but if they just really like Dragonborn, then like, yeah, we'll figure out how to make you a Dragonborn in my homebrew. So
we interjected a Clockwork Kingdom, and they're just clockwork people instead of Warforged.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So we did like there was a magical disease and they were all dying. So they sent their spirits into these clockwork bodies to not die off, and that's like the lore bit that we added for those. So we don't have technically Warforged, but same stats.
Yeah, you can use the stats. So there you go.
Although I do like the which I guess we'll have a video on it before too long, the Circle of the Forged.
Yeah, where you're like a metal. Animal, like that was really cool.
So Juice ran a game and I was like, hey, can I play a Warforged? And this was like 2 versions ago. I was like, can I play a Warforged druid and turn into mechanical animals basically? And he was down with that. Totally had that like Beast Wars kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Oh, that cartoon was so good. That was fun.
It was very good. Circle of the Forged is awesome. It's weird because you can do it without being a Warforged, and it's actually better if you're not.
Yeah, that's true, because then you get all those bonuses. But
yeah, because I feel
those were very specific to Eberron though, like Circle of the Forged and the monk and stuff. It was almost like if you're a shifter monk, you want to take this path.
Yeah.
And if you're this kind of a monk, you want to do that. And so thematically, it was really cool. But I don't think I would allow Circle of the Forged outside of an Eberron game, but that's just me.
It would be weird in Forgotten Realms, but maybe in a society of Tinker Gnomes. I don't know.
Or a magic item that does that. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like if you had like a metal necklace that when then you used your beast shape, you became like a metallic version of that animal. Like I could see doing something like that. But...
Although I will say, like, it's not super powerful. Like giving a +2 armor class to beasts, which all their armor classes suck. So it's like kind of mediocre. It's not nearly. It's probably at the best case scenario. I think it's like. You can become equal to a druid that casts bark skin and then wild shaped.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
So I'll take one final question from Rocco. What's your favorite class to play?
It's a toss up between wizard and bard. Specifically, I always like melee magical characters. So I like Gishes. And if I'm going to play a wizard, I want to be the like conjure shadow blade and like attacking. Like I don't know. I like that feel. And so bard seems to fulfill that more where I can like be in melee and have magical powers. But I like the spell selection of wizards.
Yeah.
So I probably should just play a blade singer at some point, but I haven't.
I always fight with the internet over Gishes.
Yeah, why?
So I like them thematically, and I even like my first 5e character. I played a Eldritch Knight War Wizard, right? I like them, but mechanically they're inferior. Anytime you're a wizard and you decide to hit something with your sword, there's a spell you could cast that would have been better.
Correct.
And not only that, like the Blade Singer, all of your abilities are designed to make you do a thing you're not good at.
Yep.
So like,
yeah, and a lot of times it's like this is cool that I can attack twice or something, but I should really just use, you know, Shocking Grasp or something. So
yeah, like although I will say, like, so I went to 6th level in Eldritch Knight and then 14th level in War Wizard. And you know, being able to throw in those action surges as a caster was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I have a level 14. My Warforged is an Eldritch Knight, and he's a lot of fun. But I definitely thought I would be using spells more as an Eldritch Knight than you actually do. The only redeeming thing is Action Surge. Because that's like, okay, I can set up a defensive spell here and then jump in and actually attack. Because otherwise it's like, okay, I did this, and you're a fighter, but you're not actually dealing out the damage you're supposed to do. Yeah. And so,
because,
but I still love that character. It's a lot of fun. It's just, there's optimizations that aren't there sometimes, you know, and going back to like design, like sometimes you're like, these just weren't thought out as the best, I guess. So maybe Tasha's will fix all of that. Who knows?
It's going to have all those other options, I think, for the that were in one of the UAs where they had the alternate stuff. But yeah, so like, you know, playing with other fighters and other casters, like the Bard outcast me all the time, and you know, and the fighter always outfought me. It's like you just filled this weird niche where occasionally I would do cool things like, oh, I'm going to cast Steel Wind Strike. Oh, I'm going to Action Surge and do it again. And you know, like, you know, with that many attack rolls, you're going to get at least a crit in there somewhere. So you're just rolling a ton of damage. Or I'm like, oh, I'm going to enter melee. I'm going to drop a fireball on myself and use Absorb Elements with a really high level spell slot because I don't have spells for it anyway. And then, you know, I'm hasted, so I still get an attack. And now I'm going to hit them with my Flaming Axe that does, you know, 8 die 6 in addition to the axe damage. Like there's like cool niche things you could do. I had like a super high armor class, and you know, Ted was like, does a 32 hit you? And I'm like, shield, no.
yeah.
But the downside to that is like, also I found I had more wizard hit points than fighter hit points. So when I did get hit, it was a crit, and it always hurt a lot.
Yeah. Too fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's just different ways to enjoy the game. So we are past the hour mark, so I'm not going to hold you hostage here anymore, but it's been fun. Final thoughts?
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Final thoughts before we head on out?
Final thoughts, just go be a dungeon master. There's a lot of players in the world, but you would be surprised how much you'll enjoy it. Go be a dungeon master.
You said that, and 3 fans only sites just started. Not that kind of dungeon master. With that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Bye, everybody.